All right, we are live for a little RTD Q&A. And Mario, I saw you laughing at the intro. My friend. But it's always good to connect with Mario Maneco64 over in the UK. And so I saw you posted some things today. I'm like, let me reach out to him and see if he got a minute to chit chat, because you guys, as I think this past Monday, have been put back on the lockdown, and we were talking beforehand about how it coincides with the flu season. And one thing that I didn't mention is that if you said it goes from November to March, perhaps it's going to be an extended lockdown for the UK and perhaps the rest of the world as well. So, but anyway, Mario, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, and you?
I am doing well, despite all the situations we're up against over here, and I'm sure in your neck of the woods as well. But yeah, man. So UK lockdowns and the presidential heist, and so I'm curious to get your thoughts on all that, as well as with all this chaos going on. There hasn't been a complete meltdown in the markets. It's been the complete opposite. And so a lot of people, typically I would assume with all this uncertainty, the markets would be very respond negatively, but yet that doesn't seem to be the case. So give me your thoughts on that, man. What's going on, man?
Yeah. First of all, first, the lockdown started yesterday here.
Oh, yesterday, okay.
On, I think Sunday, that they're going to do it, and then they had a vote on it on Wednesday, which was rubber stamped in Parliament. They talk about the European Parliament being a rubber stamp Parliament or the old Soviet Parliament, but at least 35, I think, MPs voted against the lockdown. The rest voted for it. The Labour Party, the opposition, the only gripe they have with Boris Johnson is that they didn't do it. He didn't do it sooner enough.
Mm-hmm.
So since Thursday, we're going to be on lockdown until December 2nd, I think, and then but they could extend it. You never know. They're saying now that it's going to definitely be December 2nd, but if their infection rate data keeps going up, because we're not seeing that many deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I like to share here, let's see.
Yeah, at the bottom of the screen, click that share.
Hold on.
And then also, so here's the thing: it's been extended to December 2nd, but yet what's that 30-day window? Is it supposed to be slow the curve, or like it was initially over here? It's 15 days and 30 days, and I don't know if you guys were given the same propaganda as well, or what.
Yeah, I mean, in March, I think it was March 20th or 22nd, they locked down. Mm-hmm. They said they wanted to flatten the curve. That was the main, that was all.
Yeah. Okay.
They had to protect the NHS as well, right, which is the National Health Service, which is a socialist centralized service here in the UK. And they even say they said they built these Nightingale hospitals, which are like a temporary hospital. They didn't build it. They took like expo centers and they just put beds in there. But by the way, they were empty. They never had to use these hospitals. So they actually closed them down. And they're saying the same thing now. They come out with the scientists who have links to Bill Gates, to the big pharmaceutical companies. The scientists stand there with Boris Johnson. That was on Sunday or Monday. I think it was Sunday. Mm-hmm. And they show all these charts. If we don't do this, we're going to have 4,000 people dying every day. 1,400 people die in the UK due to the mortality rate.
Yeah.
And a day later, there was an MP that came out and said, oh, that chart that they showed of 4,000 people, that's an old chart. We're now at a much lower slope.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just scaremongering.
Yeah.
I think there is an agenda, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Say, people are dying.
Yeah.
But there's another interesting statistic about because COVID is called SARS-CoV, right? That's the official name. It's a respiratory disease. And I heard someone say that if you go onto the UK's government statistics, ONS, Office of National Statistics data, up until the end of October, or until October last year, the 12 months to October last year, there were 55,000 respiratory deaths, like pneumonia and other things,
Yeah.
of which SARS-CoV is a respiratory disease, right? And now this year, up until October, 12 months up until October, we've had a pandemic, right? But guess how many deaths we've had?
Far less than pneumonia.
So how can we have a 52,000 compared to 5,000 last year? So how, that doesn't add up. But people are we're being so bombarded by the mainstream media, the BBC, which is the British brainwashing corporation, broadcasting, all the newspapers as well. It sells.
Yeah.
Mainstream newspapers, be it left or right, it sells. So they're all like going along with the government. And I don't have to say anything about the social media.
Just all the censorship stuff that's been going on it has increased over the last couple of months, especially here over the presidential election was one thing. That's when it became obvious how biased and how corrupt and how evil the whole social media big tech industry is in and of itself. But then we started to see a lot of that start over the whole COVID misinformation narrative of like, you got people out here, conspiracy theorists, all those things they try to label those that don't buy into this current agenda. But one thing I keep mentioning on my channel is that, right now, from what I'm getting, everybody talks about cases. So just today, Nancy Pelosi came out using such rhetoric like we need to crush the virus. And so everybody on the stage that follow her, crush the virus. So obviously that's a code word that was given to them more than likely. In
the beginning, they're also saying, you
say again?
Your image froze a little bit, sorry. But I remember in the beginning, they had a few keywords. One of them is we're all in this together. That's very collectivist. What else are they doing here? Well, a lot of people, I went out Wednesday, which was the day before the lockdown. I wanted to go to like they call it a calf here, like a spoon where you go have breakfast. And I found one that, because there's a rule now just before the lockdown, if you walked into a restaurant or anywhere, you have to walk in with your mask and then sit down and take it off. And I find that really stupid. So I have a mask, but I keep it in the pocket of my coat. Good that it's cold. So I found a place where I can go. The guy doesn't care. I just walked in, had something to eat. But you walk around in the center of town, 95% of people are wearing a mask while they're outside. I find that really,
man, so, the conditioning, like, so another thing is back to about the whole cases thing. Like, I remember all my younger years, it was the war against terror, war on terror, just those three words, war on terror. And so from 2001 up until 2015, 16, Trump's, presidency, it was a war against Trump with Russiagate and Ukrainian Gate and all the other scandals they're trying to put on him. And then now we have the war on cases. And so easily, I'm convinced that the war on cases will last this entire decade, because as they continue to push the need to, national testing and national contact tracing, that's a part of the agenda eventually leading up to the vaccines. And then on top of that, one vaccine. So over here in the UK, it might be different over there. And I'm curious, what you've studied, but we have 4 leading candidates with 4 different types. We got the ones that needs to be below 70 degrees, Fahrenheit or something. It's 2 doses. And then we got one where it's just 1 dose. We got one where it's a couple, like 6 or 7 doses. So we got so many different types of vaccines. My question is, what are they for? Because 4 different types, to me, basically is going to go to 4 tiers of society, and they will determine which ones are expendable, which ones are not, as far as the long-term health effects or side effects of those vaccines. But yeah, I'm ranting.
I get a letter or a notice from my local GP, which is part of the NHS, every time of the year when, like in the fall and early winter, to go and get a flu jab or a vaccine. I've never taken one. They're pushing that now as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Be a patriot. So they got a little commercial over here talking about be a patriot. Like, go play your part. Be a patriot. Get a flu shot. I'm like, okay.
That they don't use the Patriots, pitch in the UK.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the thing about this COVID vaccine is, from what I've heard, the COVID-19 hasn't been isolated. So how can you vaccine for something that hasn't been isolated?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it takes, for it to be a safe vaccine, it takes a few years to develop it. So how can they develop it in like 12 to 18 months? I think it's something different that they're trying to get people to take. And there's no focus also on people's health, because if you exercise and you eat fairly well, you should be healthy.
Yeah.
If you don't drink too much, or if you don't smoke, you should be all right. But there's no focus on that. So,
Right.
I listen to a guy here in the UK on YouTube. He's really good, Carl Vernon. He uses sarcasm, which is good, because he can talk as if he's not having a go at things, but you can tell. And he's saying they've left all the McDonald's here open, but closed all the gyms. They wanted people to be healthy and not get this virus. You'd like keep the gyms open, have special rules, and make sure they follow it, and close all the McDonald's and all the Domino's pizzas.
Close them all.
Yeah, because then people won't be eating rubbish.
Yeah. Now, what that tells me, and what I think I mentioned a while ago, is how any company that's publicly traded, they can't afford to close, because it would impact the share prices of those companies, because they're all international companies that you're probably referring to. So the Walmarts, all the big box stores here were wide open. I mean, jam-packed, at all times of the day. So, that's another angle that is very, funny looking.
Pop business has to suffer.
Yeah, and all the small business, mom and pop's business, and that's, you can clearly tell they want to wipe out any business that's not publicly traded, that people don't have special interest in or shares in, as far as profiting off those entities. They're subject to be closed down. But here's another thing as well. I've been paying attention to how Russia appears to have the Sputnik 5, which is their form of their vaccine, which I guess is already done and approved, and they've already issued it. I'm not sure how well it's been received in Russia, but I think 100+ countries have signed on to be recipients of it, and Argentina just signed on like last week for 25 million doses, and some. So they're already dispersing a vaccine from Russia across the world. So the question is, how are they so ready, and how are their vaccines, I guess, safe and healthy and ready to go to be distributed to the world? And here we're being told that they're not ready yet. In my personal opinion, of course, all the vaccines have already been done. They've already been ready. They just need to play this narrative of like it takes time and trials here.
I thought it was a satellite, Sputnik 5.
So that's what it was made after. That's what it's called. That's what it's called after. So they rebranded it or recalled their vaccine a Sputnik 5 as well, which is interesting in itself.
Putin's daughter took it already or something this summer.
I want to say I heard that, yeah.
Well, the mayor of London, who's really not a very pleasant guy, Sadiq Khan is his name, and the cab drivers here hate him because he's basically made the center of London almost impossible to drive around. And he's got all the bus lanes and cycle lanes, but there's a few weeks ago, because they're pushing people to take vaccines, there's a picture of him taking supposedly a flu vaccine, and someone zoomed in and the syringe was covered. So he was just pretending he was having the vaccine.
It's a vial of water.
Just pump some water into me.
Yeah, or one of those fake needles with the retractable needle. It touches the skin, it goes in, like the little kids be playing with. Oh man, we in a hell of a storm, man. And so the Great Reset. I'm sure you've been following that as well, and all the intricacies of how that plan is laid out?
Yeah,
it goes very deep.
I made a video about that like in June because I saw that, and because the World Economic Forum, along with Prince Charles, he was in this. They did a Zoom together. And Charles was there, Carl Schwab,
Yeah.
And some people had looked into the World Economic Forum website just after COVID, came into action and they had the lockdown. Their website had a wealth of information already about what should be done.
Yeah.
Economically, socially, politically. I mean, they must be, it's like Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
And I think that the World Economic Forum has definitely done a good job of that. Not that I like them, because I wrote because I keep a blog as well. Don't write there too much. It's called Maneco64.net. And I wrote in June about this, and I did a little bit of research, and I found that from their own information, the World Economic Forum started as the European Management Forum in the early 70s.
Really?
That was their name. And I've got, sorry, I'm just moving. I've got like if you go on my website, on this Maneco64.net, you will see the origins of the World Economic Forum. And one of the founding chairmen was a guy called Herman Joseph Abs, ABS. And he was like the biggest commercial banker in Nazi Germany during the war. And Americans wanted to prosecute him at Nuremberg, but the British administration, like in Berlin or in Germany, said, no, you're not going to arrest this guy and let him off. So that's the kind of people that are involved in forming the World Economic Forum. And you look at their website, people on the board of trustees, you got Christine Lagarde, you got Mark Carney, head of the IMF, you got the guy from BlackRock, Larry Fink. All kinds of people, and it all seems to be a plan.
Yeah, I know, and so I got a couple questions here in the chat as well. I'm gonna get to those as well. I'm actually gonna pull the website up while you were speaking.
Bring in this reset. Hopefully, I think actually, I haven't been sure about Trump because he's been close to to Davos, the World Economic Forum, but it doesn't necessarily mean, I guess, that you're in with them. Maybe he wanted to see what they're up to, but I think from what I've heard Trump say in the last few months and in the campaign is that he wants, he said we've got to go back to how we were before, and that's a good thing. And he doesn't want to lock the economy down. So I think if Trump does win, it could be a big trouble for the World Economic Forum or the global.
Yeah. So my thing is, so right now the whole, now everything is going to be contested, and so clearly, so here I can give you my quick little 30-second rant of what I think how it's going to play out. Biden's going to win. He's going to get 270, and so the world will celebrate all the Democratic, people who want change and all that, and get rid of him get rid of Trump because of who he is and who he's not to them. They're going to celebrate, and therefore that instills within their mind that they won already. So once everything goes to the court, they're going to recount the ballots in Georgia starting today or something like that I saw, and they're going to do Pennsylvania, do Michigan again. With Michigan is my home state is just it's a wreck right now. And so once they do all this recounting, they're going to inch out a win for Trump. There's going to be 2-something for Trump, and so all that's going to be redone, and then it's going to be an outright civil war because everybody already thought Biden won, and all of a sudden to be told that, especially come down to Amy Barrett. So because he put in a new Supreme Court right before all this, anticipating this, so it's setting us up for a clash of the left versus right paradigm. And so I mentioned like the Bloods and Crips. So they're conditioning us to basically go against each other by stirring on emotions and so-called political affiliations that it's going to be very, very, very 2021 going to come in unfortunate with a lot of chaos, burning, rioting, looting, and God forbid blood being shed. That's how I see this thing playing out, and I'm assuming that's how they want it to play out as well. So
yeah, it's the old divide and rule
yeah,
strategy. And you said that they're going to declare Biden, and the left and the mainstream media is going to be they're going to be all happy and everything. But it's not only in the U.S. Here as well. You look at all the mainstream media here; they're all very anti-Trump. So
yeah,
if Trump is able to challenge these, some of these state elections and win, and then eventually stay as president. Yeah, it's not only going to be in the U.S. That you know
man,
the mainstream. Even though a lot of people here are pro Trump, I would say that a lot of the people that are against the lockdown are pro Trump. But one thing, I stayed up till 5 in the morning here the day of the election, which was midnight, November 3rd. So I was following on CNN, which sounds weird, but they have a really good map and they have a really good. But I was also following it on the Infowars, which is I found amazing. They kept saying no Republican president has ever won in the modern era without taking the Buckeye State, Ohio, and also Florida. Uh, Trump won really easily in Florida, well, relatively easy compared to the recent elections. So, and you would have thought he's won Ohio, he's won Florida, and he was way ahead in Michigan. In Pennsylvania, he was ahead by 600,000 votes before they stopped counting the votes.
yeah.
He was ahead in Michigan, he was ahead in Wisconsin, and all of a sudden they stopped counting. So I think there is some kind of shenanigans going on. Uh, I heard a story about in Wisconsin, they got 138,000 ballot drop, and out of those, 135,000 were for Biden. I mean, if it was maybe 80,000 for Biden and let's say 58,000 for Trump, then, but they, that seems to be blatant cheating. Of course, they have to investigate all that. The other thing I heard as well from reading and watching other people analyze this is that the Congress, the House, the Republicans got more seats, right?
Yeah.
Than the Democrats. We also heard that Joe Biden got more votes than Obama ever did. Obama was very popular, and Joe Biden is not a popular guy. Joe Biden, he's like a.
Oh man! So the voter fraud is, and so I would imagine that it wouldn't take. If you want to be real, it should be one of those cases where, regardless of whatever political affiliation you associate with, you should be willing to accept the idea that there could be some fraudulent activity happening with the whole voting aspect, even though there's just only vote for two parties itself is flawed in of itself. But just the fact that this current election is something smells very fishy. So if they do the recount and they show some video footage, they show there's tons of video footage floating around, stuff happening here in Detroit that show people coming in late 2, 3, 4 in the morning with bags and book bag. I mean, so. And then you got the fact they're boarding up the windows so people can't see in. It's like, come on now, like that right there spells, trouble. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to unwind, very unfortunate. But here's the thing: with all that being said, we're still in the green for the most part. Like all the equity market. I'm not sure what the UK is looking like, but here in the US, everything here is looking very favorable. People are probably feeling good, and especially going to feel extra good if Biden happens to win. And the markets continue to go up. So what do you think about this? They say that Trump says if Biden wins, the economy, the stock market going to crash, everybody's going to lose everything. And then you hear people say that Wall Street loves Biden, and they, what's your take on all this?
Well, it's difficult because in 2016 I was watching the election as well. Like this year, I was up late, and there's a lot of speculation. And people said, if Trump wins, the stock market is going to crash. Actually, when he won, the stock market went up like 1,000 points down. And now I've been hearing theories that if Biden wins and there's a blue wave, tech stocks are going to go through the roof because of the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have a blue wave because the Senate has remained Republican.
Yeah.
What they're saying now, if you listen to the analysts, is that, they won't be able to, if there's a Biden administration, we won't be able to pare back a lot of the Trump reforms.
Mm-hmm.
He's not be able to bring in the new Green Deal, but so the stock market's still going up. I think in the end of the day, it depends on the Fed, right? If the Fed keeps rates low, like they said they will for 3 years, if they keep printing money, the stock market should remain firm. But some people think that there could be trouble, like if you the scenario that you pointed out earlier about Biden being declared the winner and then Trump challenging and then winning, and then chaos and maybe social unrest or even worse, that could be bad for the stock market. All that.
I would think we will all think. I mean, common sense would tell us that that would be a practical response. It plays on people's emotions, creating uncertainty and panic and fear. That people would want to withdraw themselves from the financial world. But if the Fed is behind everything and making sure everything is remaining stable as they transition us through this reset until the central bank digital currency comes out and all the universal basic income next year. So I'd imagine the markets wouldn't tank even with that. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, the British are coming. They burnt the White House. Stock market makes new record highs.
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh my goodness.
Burnt the White House. Not many people know that.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I think.
Yeah, I don't know the year, but we are on our second White House. So, and if
in that year.
Yeah, and if Trump wins, they built an exterior wall further out, I guess, to surround the White House, so to protect it. So they're preparing for something. So I guess it's going to come eventually.
Well, the other thing people forget is that Trump's still president until noon on January 20th.
Mm-hmm.
So, he still has the power.
Mm-hmm. He got 90 days. So in 90 days, I can imagine some crazy stuff. Trump does not like to lose. Like, just from a competition standpoint, being a businessman, he don't like to lose. So he's gonna call some. If say for example they do the recount, it shows that it's legit. He lost. They try to go to the Supreme Court, and say if Amy Barrett turns on him, and all of a sudden she's that far left extremist that didn't think she was, and they shoot it down, and it makes him look foolish. I would hope that he airs out the laundry of all prior history of this country and all the corruption and crime and everybody's video footage and signed documents. And
I think he will do that. I heard someone say that if he's booted out, the next 4 years, he's going to he'll come out. I think he's thinking of creating a media company.
Yeah, I was gonna put this on the screen.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah, it says, I just came across this tweet. It says, multiple reports claim if Trump loses, he's considering launching a Trump TV to fight Fox News and plans to take Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and others with him. So, yeah, the question is, will they allow him to get that off the ground? Because if he tries to air out the laundry of how corrupt this entire country is, if that's legit, I don't think he's going to make it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he'll make it to see another day as far as being able to do that and walk away with a smile on his face. I don't think so.
FCC is going to crack down on him.
Yeah, they're going to shut him down quick. So watch this. A lot of people want to talk about metals, so I want to get into metals as well. Go ahead.
InfoWars.
Say again? And what's the thing is he made an appearance with Alex Jones before, but after he got elected, so all the places he was going to get support from the alternative media world, he didn't acknowledge many of them once he became president. I think that was a major problem, but he had to, I'm assuming, to play the role of a president. But here's a thought here. So there's some comments about metals, so we can touch on those too. It says, hi, Mike and Mario. We all know the pros for silver. What are the cons? What are some cons? The only detrimental case I can think of is deflation, classical deflation, or definition rather. What do you think, Mr. Mario?
Yeah, I mean, deflation, the classical definition is the the destruction of the money supply, the shrinking of the money supply, resulting in lower prices. That's what deflation is. Nowadays, people use the term deflation just if the economy slows down, which is not really true. Because if you look at M1, M2, M3, everywhere around the world is going up like over 50% annualized this year. I write, the biggest risk to silver, to like the paper price, is JP Morgan, really. It's the bullion banks, but I don't think they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
So, and I think in the 30s there was deflation. Like gold did very well because in the deflation there's a lot of bankruptcies, and you don't want to own a lot of companies, so you go to safety. Silver might not do as well as gold, but I don't think we're going to get deflation in the classical sense because the central banks, they've shown to us that they're not going to let there be deflation. They're going to keep doing QE, and eventually people are going to lose confidence in that currency.
Yeah, and so I had Jeff Booth on, who wrote a book about deflation and how technology automatically leads towards a deflationary environment because technology improves, making life easier and cheaper and smarter and all the stuff like that. So he's like, the Fed is basically fighting inflation, which they'll never be able to find it unless they do something drastic in a sense. Say again?
He said they're fighting deflation.
They're fighting deflation, correct? That's their goal. So basically saying that as he's coming from the tech side of things, as saying how what
we can't all eat iPads, right?
Yeah.
That guy from the New York Fed, Bill Dudley, who said they're talking about inflation. He said, well, but iPad prices have dropped. He said, well, we can't eat iPads, but I think it's. I have a problem with people who don't really know the classical definition of inflation and deflation. Because the Fed could very easily get the high prices if they want. They just go back to the way they calculated CPI in the 80s, and we'd have 5-6%. But then they wouldn't be able to keep these fraudulent, manipulated interest rates at zero. So the Fed basically, they keep talking about the fact that there's a deflation danger, because if they tell the people the truth about how prices are rising, because can anyone tell me that their grocery shopping, their rents, their tuition, their health costs have gone down in the last 10, 15, 20 years? No. So, and the reason they're doing that is because they have to keep inflating the financial bubble. So because if interest rates were where they should be, probably double digits, the whole system would implode. So I think it's a complete, deception. And a lot of people have bought into it because they've been educated to think that inflation is the CPI, while inflation is the increase in the money supply. Me too, maybe 20 years ago, I used to think the same thing. Started looking into money, gold, and inflation. When I worked in the city in the 90s, I worked in after that as well, but I knew by then. But whenever CPI numbers used to come out, we always used to say in the dealing room, oh, the inflation data are coming out. That's a mistake. It's the price data. In the 80s, the most important statistic, even before non-farm, were the M3 numbers, which is really inflation.
Yeah. Now watch this. To that same note there about the Federal Reserve saying they can't find inflation because, of course, their measurements are skewed, as well as if they were to find it, they'll just move the goalpost further so that they can't find it officially according to what they're looking for. But as they continue to create more reserves to provide credit for all the facilities and banks and windows and special purpose, all that stuff they're creating, those funds are not actually reaching Main Street economy pockets. And what people are getting in the form of stimulus.
I mean, it's reaching investors' pockets.
Yeah.
Through the bank system. And right now it's still going into like stocks and bonds. If you look at the how commodities are the most undervalued versus the stock market in over 100 years. Actually, a lot of that inflation is going to go into commodities, and then the cost of living is going to rise even more. People are going to be suffering even more. I think it was on Greg Hunter. He had Jim Sinclair and Bill Holter, and Jim Sinclair was saying, it's going to be really bad because everything that you don't need, like your Tesla or your iPad or everything high-priced items, discretionary items, they're going to be really cheap. But the things you need, like food and shelter, you're not going to be able to, unless you've done, protected your savings and you've got an income. You're not going to be able to get it for a decent price. Not that there's going to be shortages, but just the currency is going to really be not worth much against.
So right now, so basically right now, if you think about it from the broader standpoint, if inflation was really to be calculated according to the way it was in pre-1980 time frame, CPI, sorry, we would probably be closer. Depending on, I think the Chapwood Index does a good job of keeping up with stuff locally here in the States, and so we're somewhere between 7 to 10, 11, whatever, depending on what city you're in. It's
also, have you heard of
John Williams? Yes. And so technically speaking, so just say for a roundabout number, we're probably currently right now at 10% average inflation, according to the way we would price things that we actually use and consume on a daily basis. So basically, as the Federal Reserve continue to do more of what they're doing and they ramp it up, encouraging the government to get involved from a fiscal standpoint, we're basically then going to hit the point where we're going to see hyperinflation.
Hyperinflation is like, and this is like Jim Sinclair as well. I've been following him for almost 20 years, and one thing he says is it's not a cost push, thing. Hyperinflation. It's not like it usually happens when the economy is doing really badly, when there's a recession, and the government and the central bank are printing money and monetizing debt, and that's where we are now. The scenario is really good. There's political instability, a lot of debt monetization, slow economy. We've got all the ingredients, and eventually people lose confidence in the currency, and they rush to get rid of that currency for real things. That's hyperinflation, the loss of confidence in the currency. And it's not something that you can measure, like let's say CPI goes to 2%, then 3, 4, and then you project, if it's going to be 1,000%, it's going to be in 10 years. No, it can happen it can just go parabolic.
Now, one thing, what I think is always good for us to use history as prior examples of what has taken place and how they evolved, and so we can learn from those events. But one of my concerns is that you say that the rush to get out of paper, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, all great examples of hyperinflation. To where, say again,
Weimar Germany,
where the inflation rate, the numbers are 1,000% per day or whatever the numbers I hear from reading and following and stuff. But think about it. Those examples of history were not at a time where they were issuing and taking advantage of technology and looking to offer another form of a legal tender, such as a solely digital unit like they are now. And so as paper becomes questionable, as people start to realize it's the paper itself that's causing the price increases and they try to get rid of it, I think before we get to that, we're going to have an app, the digital currency app, which we won't be able to get rid of that. So
the thing is, the money we use now, the currency we use now is all digital anyway. Most of it. Very few people are using cash. So if they say, we're going to have what we call a digital currency, I don't think people are going to buy into it unless it's backed 100% by gold or silver.
Or desperate or extremely desperate. You break down the American economy to where no jobs, no houses, homelessness is up, no food, no whatever.
And how digital currency is going to be worth anything either. People are going to lose confidence. If the same people that are issuing the paper currency, the fiat currency, they say, we're now going to issue a digital currency. Do you think people are really going to trust that? The thing that I read about Germany in 1923 is that you had World War I, a lot of deficit spending to pay for that war. And then as the war ended, the Kaiser abdicated, the German Empire fell, and it became a republic.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of political instability, assassinations, troubles. Germany was almost breaking up, like Bavaria from the rest of Germany and all the different states. And then one thing in terms of the prices is the price of food. And
Mhm.
in 2 years before 1923, people were noticing, food prices are going up, not
Mhm.
very badly, and then all of a sudden they picked up, and then that's when it starts. And I've seen some of my viewers have sent me links from videos from people, just normal people on YouTube, going out in North Texas and looking at the prices in the supermarket. And
Mhm.
then this lady got messages, comments from the people who view her channel. And someone said, I used to be able to buy a brisket for $20,
Mhm.
before the lockdown, and it's now $90 or $70. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge increase.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing that here so badly, but that's where it starts in the food.
Now, one thing that I'm
It's not food inflation. I also it gets me as well when people call it food inflation.
yeah.
Money that's being inflated, and the money is becoming worth less versus the food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
food inflation.
So like little words like that, such as just using words money and currency. I think people in the near future, will be able to distinguish between the two eventually. And what I was going to say was, I recently came across an article. I think it was on Zero Hedge as well, but it talked about Venezuela and how there's a dollar, a whole luxury side of Venezuela popping up because of the people who use dollars to build, assets and communities and restaurants, or whatever. So only those people who have dollars in Venezuela can actually participate in that economy in Venezuela right now. And for those individuals, it's like normal. They can go out to restaurants and eat, and all that stuff is available to those who have dollars. And so I'm thinking, like, if the shoe was on the other foot here,
People who have gold and silver.
correct. And so
Yeah,
we all talk about food shortages and lack of this and lack of that. I personally believe there will always be food
okay.
available. There's going to be services available. It's just, can you afford it? And
Yeah,
with your currency, you will not be able to. But with your money, i.e., sound money, I think as a
yeah.
result of that, you'll have options.
I grew up in Brazil, and in the early mid '70s, it wasn't as bad. But then in the late '70s and up to the mid '80s, I was still there, and there was everything in the supermarkets, and you could still get. But it was very, very not everyone could buy beef or steak. It was, but
Mhm.
if you earned dollars, for example, through your business, or you had dollars, you were fine. You
Yeah.
were you were doing really well. Actually, you could afford, because every month that dollar would become worth more and more.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think the same thing is going to happen to people because uh, the dollar is the reserve currency, right? So the only way that the dollar can be devalued is via precious metals.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
because if you try to value the dollar versus the euro, the ECB is going to start printing because they don't want their currency to be too strong. The only real money that all fiat currencies, especially the dollar, can devalue against is gold and
Mhm.
silver. So I think, yeah, people who hold gold and silver, they will be protected. I guess cryptocurrencies maybe as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bitcoin, because obviously a lot of people are, especially in the corporate side of things here, as more people are going into, putting Bitcoin, it's in particular, on their balance sheet as reserves and savings in it and whatnot. I think a lot of people are also measuring the value of a unit of currency as far as a dollar in Bitcoin terms. And as of right now, it's 15,700 pieces of paper for one unit of a coin called Bitcoin. So
Coin though.
yeah, say again.
You ever held a Bitcoin? I haven't.
The
I mean,
Bitcoin, no, the Bitcoin, the digital ledger unit.
like I'm not trying to slap Bitcoin because I think it will do okay. My problem with it is that it's very volatile and you can't hold it like a silver coin.
Mhm.
Even though when you see videos about Bitcoin on YouTube or elsewhere, uh, the thumbnail usually has a gold coin with a B on it.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's thin air. And they do argue, of course, that you've got to use all the computer power, electricity to mine Bitcoin. But let's say you wanted to go to Mars. Not that I believe you can, but you want something to exchange with the Martians. I mean, would you take a Bitcoin or an ounce of gold?
I mean, I would try both for the heck of it, because I'd assume their technology is a lot further along.
You can have a Bitcoin or this really nice gold coin. You can't show them the Bitcoin. They'd say, "What are you talking about?"
You gotta hold up your phone. You gotta say, "Hey, look at my screen." And so they'd be like, "Okay, how can I get this to you? Like, do you have a cell phone or internet here?" Or they'd be like, "Oh, that would be funny."
So that's the problem I have with it. But I think, yeah, I think it's more. Yeah, I'm not slagging Bitcoin off, but I think, and if you talk to the majority of people, they know gold and silver.
Mhm.
Everyone knows gold and silver. Even the terms we use, the golden boy or the golden everything,
Everything's
silver.
golden. Yeah.
gold,
See,
You know,
I think right now one of the big distractions with that is because all the old financial products that they've served us for so long are apparently doing so well for the average person who's not paying attention and an
yeah,
active investor or trader. The passive investor are the majority, and those are the ones that to buy and hold in your
mm,
portfolios, and you let somebody take care of it for you. And then 20 years from now, you want it to be there with compound interest. What are your thoughts on compound interest these days, from the financial product side of things?
there isn't any, is there?
I don't know, but I'm sure advisors are still saying that there's.
Apart from dividend, like Newmont Mining,
Mhm.
they've got almost 2.5% dividends.
Yeah,
So, but
2.5%. Okay.
Newmont Mining. So,
Yeah,
but you know, when I think of compound interest, I think of when you used to save actual cash
yeah.
in the bank and get 4 or 5% a year, and then reinvesting that, you know,
Hmm.
reinvesting it. That's how we get compound interest. But
Yeah.
uh, investing stocks, yeah, your holdings might go up, but it's not interest; it's capital gains, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Unless you there is no more fixed income really. That's what the bond market is also called, the fixed income market.
Mhm.
You have to buy very risky bonds in order to get a decent coupon.
Yeah. I
So,
saw something today. All-time high in negative yielding bonds is 17. I think it says 17 trillion. I think, or 17 billion. I'm not sure what 17 something.
yeah.
17 trillion. Yeah. So I'm thinking like wow, like those are people are holding those things, expecting to. They were supposed to be growing, huh?
Because, especially the longer term bonds, the lower the yields go negative,
Hmm.
the faster the price moves up. So a lot of those people are holding it just for the capital gain, not for the income.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in Europe, a lot of and in the U.S. as well, a lot of pension funds they are obliged by law to hold government bonds.
Hmm.
It's risk free,
Yeah.
and it's ridiculous. It's a disservice to their members or investors.
Yeah. And then we talk about the two candidate or not the two candidates right now, their tax plans. And so with MMT, so Biden actually gets through it in week 2021 with new president, and the fact he ran upon raising taxes on those that make above $400,000, and the American people are like, yeah, tax the rich, tax the rich. And I'm thinking like, whoa, the rich employ majority of the population though, so they're gonna pass on the costs and layoffs. And I'm like, damn, like they don't know, but. And so we got the Trump tax plan of I'm cutting corporate, I'm cutting payroll, I'm cutting every tax you name it, I'm cutting them because Trump hate taxes. You can tell because he don't want nothing to do with taxes because that's one thing they've used to haunt him with. And so we
I
got extreme tax, no tax, and the
I
American
agree
people know that.
Trump, but Trump he has cut taxes, but even before the 2020 crisis,
Mhm.
the budget deficit was running at 5%.
Mhm.
So if you're going to cut taxes, you got to cut the size of government.
That's not happening. And
Remember,
so the thing is that's not happening. So with no taxes, with no government revenue coming in, and the expenditures continue to skyrocket, that's ultimately setting us, I believe, and that's why I question, like, he has to be in on this great reset agenda of trying to come up with a new brand of currency, whether it be, people say they merged the Treasury and the Fed together right now, or something like that. The Treasury's taking over the Fed, and they're going to alleviate the Fed. I'm thinking like, the system is designed for all those people. They're going to just rebrand themselves and take over the Treasury for real this time.
People say, "Oh, Trump is taking over the Fed,"
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really buy into that. If Trump was, and I don't, I'm still not too sure about Trump, but if he really wanted to make America, well, maybe not great, but take it back, become freer, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you look at the U.S. before 1913, from 1837 to 1913, there was no central bank. There was no tax, and America ran perfectly okay. It became like the biggest economy in the world in 1870.
Yeah.
You know,
Except for those panics, though. I think it was every 7 the business cycle side of things, like the banks causing those damn panics.
There were panics, but they were very sharp and short, and they didn't last very long. But now you have panics now, and they just taper. They just tape over the band-aid, the panics, and they make it even bigger. The next panics. And I think we are at a juncture where there will be we've covered all the bank, we don't allow things to go under anymore. The corporations, the big banks, we haven't done it since '08, except for Lehman. But there'll be a time when all this has to unwind. And but like I said, if Trump really wants to make America how it used to be a bit more before the Fed, maybe, think about abolishing the Fed. But
I don't think he's powerful enough, and I think really it's him, like just the deep state. Like, I've heard a lot more about that lately. It's the government agencies themselves, all those 3-letter words: CIA, FBI, DOJ, HHE. All those departments are working for or made up of individuals that take orders from whoever their masters are. So it will be, if Trump was for real, it'd be him versus all those other entities. So that's why I'm not believing that there's good guys in government still.
They're very linked. All the central banks, even the BIS, the CIA. I've done a bit of research. I think one of the first presidents of the Bank for International Settlements was someone called McGraw. He was a New York banker. Not his first name, but his grandson was a guy called McGraw-Helms. He was the head of the CIA in the 70s. What's his name? But they're all related. Let's see, CIA Helms. Richard Helms. Yeah. So he was the head of the CIA. Let's see, from 66 to 73. And his grandfather was one of the initial presidents of the Bank for International Settlements, which is the central bank, the bank for the central banks.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. But for example, if Trump wins now and then says, "I'm going to appoint Ron Paul as my economic advisor," like that of what's his name? That guy that was on CNBC. Economic advisor. He's the chief. Larry Kudlow. So if Trump were to replace Larry Kudlow with Peter Schiff or Ron Paul, then I would be encouraged.
Yeah.
More
going outside of the regular rotation of the same politically corrupt. And it's interesting how so here's the thing. Say, for example, Biden does get through and it becomes the next president. His whole staff will be made up of everybody who's been in politics with him for the last 40-something years, if they're still alive.
Yeah.
And then Harris.
Who's going to be the Secretary of Treasury, maybe.
Who you talking about?
Sorry?
Who you talking about? Secretary? Who you talking about?
Biden might appoint Hillary Clinton for as Treasury Secretary or something, shouldn't he?
No doubt. And Obama coming. I mean, oh my goodness, corruption on top of corruption, man.
I've heard someone say that if Biden wins, he's going to try to appoint Stephanie Elton as Federal Reserve Board. She's the woman who's pushing MMT.
Okay. Well, that plays right along because I mean he would have a backer. Huh?
Have you heard about her?
She wrote a book. She wrote a book, didn't she?
Can you imagine her as chairman of the Federal Reserve? I mean,
I mean, I would be surprised. I mean, that's the thing. Like at this current point, coming towards the end game of this current structure we're in, I'm not surprised by much. And so here's something that came to my mind today about as we get into this political chaos of recounting the ballots and all that good stuff like that. If things are looking as if there's going to be a turnaround and states are really, getting rid of the illegal ballots, if there are any, and starting to really tally those numbers down for a possible Trump win for some of those states, I can imagine a false flag occurring, like something like another diversion tactic. That will be something to be, get everybody's attention outside of the health situation they're trying to use. So, yeah, huh?
Is that like in this scenario where they see that Trump is going to win? You think?
Yep, I can see. Yep, they can see that.
Would that be helpful for Biden, or just help?
It wouldn't, but I think it would either it will be something it will all be in an attempt of diverting the American public's attention from the fraud committed and all the parties involved. And so if they start rolling names out,
big distraction to cover
exactly. So it could be a major distraction tactic, or it'll be used in some way to kind of hurt Trump, or it'll be one of his buildings, or so. I mean, I don't know, but it'll be something that try to hurt Trump directly. If they are really enemies, they would try to hurt Trump directly. And God forbid, a family member. You never know how deep and dirty these people can go, man. Because it's pure evil. Anyway.
A fake alien invasion.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on that. I saw some videos with flying saucers out there.
Yeah, I've heard about that one. The other thing I read, I think it was Jim Rickards on the Daily Reckoning. I don't know that, but someone sent it to me. He said that if the Democrats had won the Senate and the House, and Biden had won, one of the things they're going to do is try to make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states, so they get 2 senators from each one of those. That would mean that the Democrats would never lose the majority in the Senate again, because Washington, D.C. is very left-leaning. I mean, they got 3 electoral votes I saw. It was like 85% Biden, 15% Trump.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico is very left-leaning, but they didn't. So.
So another thing is, I talked about this last night on a live stream I did, where we talked about how, regardless of who wins, I think they're going to eventually have to. It's a chance that they may not under Trump or the Republican side, but under the Democratic side, they're going to try to readdress the Constitution, because I think it's going to be a threat for them going in towards the globalist side of things, of wanting the Great Reset and connecting governments and one world unification. And so they're going to eventually have to address the Constitution, which means removing our guns eventually, so that they can implement all the other things they want to roll out. So I think it's going to happen around the world first before it comes here, but we're getting taste of it all around the world. So
the First Amendment as well is being trampled on.
Yeah, it is big time. And they're using the disguise of big tech, saying that, those are private companies, that we have the right to, disclaimers and policy procedure, all that crap. So
I think you're on the phone talking to someone and get caught because you're saying something that the phone company doesn't like. That's how the internet should be, really, I think.
Yeah. Well, hey, I don't know. Well, Mario, man, we've got an hour, man, and we can go on forever because I enjoy hanging out with you. But once again, any last thoughts you want to leave us with, and what are you anticipating for the rest of this month, rest of this year, on your side or on our side? Anything?
Here, I expect further aggression, lockdowns and more control.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys won't get the same, but if what you say could happen, chaos, then it could be the same for you guys. But I think no matter who wins, Trump or Biden, gold and silver are going to keep going up. That's my, it's like when you were talking about in Venezuela or other countries like Turkey right now. If you've got dollars, you do okay. You'll be able to cope.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main message. Try to have some savings in precious metals. Try to pay down debt. Try not to deal with the bankers, and by that I mean, don't borrow from them. Try to live in your means.
Yeah. Well, good point, Mr. Mario Maneco64. For those that don't know, definitely a majority of people here, everybody knows you're here. But if not on YouTube, Maneco64, go check them out. And Mr. Mario, definitely be blessed over there, my friend. And you got a month of lockdown, so I hope you guys can navigate around that and still keep your sanity there. But good luck, and of course, we'll connect again soon, man, because I know things are going to unfold here and there. So, well, good talking to you as always, Mario. I will see you later.
Thank you.